this is awkward. Can you guys see me at all?
Nope. No. I just see cannabis.
I see cannabis. We can hear each other, but all we see is cannabis. Well, thank you, StreamYard. They're not working. Let me see if I can get rid of this.
There we are.
Hey, technology, baby. You got to press the right button. Somebody had this button pushed, and I couldn't get rid of them. So, sometimes.
Nick, someone's been pushing your buttons?
Well, what you got to do, Lee, see, you don't need to code anymore. What you have to do is know how to push the right buttons.
Someone needs to code, but just not us.
Yeah, coders need to code, but normal people, we just need to push the right buttons. And the real problem with coders, they don't tell you about all the buttons you need to push. So I've gotten these programs with like 5,000 buttons and no instructions. In other words, okay, figure it out, guy. You're a smart guy. Figure it out. And you have to do this trial and error thing to figure out all the buttons to push. But that's the wave of the future. They're doing that. But anyway, well, everybody, welcome to the World Edition. I'm not your host. I'm Nick.
You are today.
Well, that's because Steve and Mark are AWOL.
It's like the teacher's out, the class takes over.
What?
The inmates are running the asylum.
Yeah, I mean, Steve might be in Washington, D.C., and Mark is running around doing who knows what. So they want us to let us know what the news of the world is. And I don't keep up with the news in the world. I work all the time. There's a lot of people.
Wait now.
Oh, Dan knows the news of the world. Okay, we'll bring Dan in.
Okay, it's Oprah's birthday today. She's 69.
Okay.
And so that's
material.
That's part of. I don't know. I mean, I can tell you what the news is. I mean, just give me a second. I'll go to my Fox link.
Dan.
Yeah.
Dan, on a sad note, from Laverne and Shirley, I think it's Laverne passed away.
Really?
Cindy Williams passed away. She was 75.
She was how old?
She did.
75.
Yeah.
75, really? Wow.
Oh.
And so that's a material news right now. Okay, so Oprah's birthday, Cindy Williams passes away. Notice in America, for those foreigners listening to us, because we have a lot of people listening overseas, we don't give a rat's rear what's going on in the rest of the world. We really don't care. It's all about our celebrities. We don't care about Ukraine. We don't care about Iraq. We don't care about anything.
Now wait. I got more
Dan
news.
Cares. I'll bring him in.
Yes. U.S. South Korea vow to ramp up their nuclear deterrence in face of Northern Korea's aggression. Yeah, Gatz, or whatever his name is, from Florida, is undecided on removing Omar from Foreign Affairs Committee, says McCarthy. Let's see. We've got hundreds of flights are canceled in Texas.
Dan?
Yeah.
Is there anything about Mike Lee in there? Because I hear Mike Lee and some people on the intelligence committees are asking the FBI and DOJ for documents and information about ongoing investigations, and they're telling them to, pound stand. So do we have a constitutional crisis where our intelligence agencies are not cooperating with people who have the highest classifications and security clearances in government?
Yeah, but Mike Lee may not have the authority. Just because he's a U.S. senator doesn't mean he's God.
No, I understand it, but there should be somebody within Congress who does.
Okay, yeah,
because we're co-equal branches.
He has to go to Congress and get Congress to approve it. Mike Lee,
I get that. I get all that.
And say, hey, I'm God. Give me documents. No, it doesn't work that way. He can.
He's a senator.
No, I understand it.
He's a senator from Utah.
Congress. He's a senator from Utah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but one of 50 in the or 100 in the United States Senate, right?
That's right.
All right. So, but the federal government, the intelligence community, has an obligation to cooperate with Congress and investigations of Congress. We saw that in spades when they were.
But Dan, he is not Congress. He is.
No, he is not Congress.
Senator.
Congress does have oversight.
It's not the Senate.
Congress has two houses: House of
right.
Representatives and the Senate. He's a member of Congress. Yes, he is. He's also a member.
So what? He's just a member. He does not speak for Congress. I'm sorry.
They're also
he's
called
just a Congress. Put him in his place. As I've been told, Mike Lee needs to be put in his place. Okay, if he wants to speak for Congress, he's got to get Congress to agree. Otherwise, AOC can go demand the documents. You want to see Republicans jump up and down? Oh, AOC is demanding the documents. Okay, you guys wouldn't like that. So Mike Lee's the same way. Neither one of them speak for Congress. They just speak for
The
themselves.
Intelligence Committee of the House of Representatives is requesting the same information.
But then he's got to enroll other people to agree to do that. And even the committees may not have that.
Who is?
I'm not even sure if the committees have that power.
Yes, they do.
They like to wait.
They have oversight.
They always like to think they have a lot of power.
They have oversight and responsibility of the intelligence. See, these intelligence divisions just aren't autonomous. They have oversight by Congress. That's part of Congress.
That's correct, right? Yeah, oversight by Congress. I would agree.
Good morning, everybody.
We have our professional politician has just arrived.
I'm gonna open up real quick.
On that. Lawyers would just argue.
Because we had technical difficulties today, I'm going to open up tomorrow because I want to talk about my meeting with the Vice President of the United States yesterday. I had the
wait. You met. Wait. Hold it, Steve. This is big news. You, which is Steve Rao, met with the Vice President of the United States of America. You, Steve Rao.
Yep.
Nick, can you address him properly? It's the Steve Rao now.
Okay, excuse me. Yeah, I'm sorry. Just a second.
I'm gonna
Honorable Steve Rao.
I had a formal monologue prepared about meetings, so I'm gonna.
He met with God's right.
Rao, your vote.
Okay,
well,
Steve.
real quickly, let me
and
just
you're not
go
going
through
to tell
what
us
we're
about it, right?
Well, I'm going to talk about it tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to chime in real quickly and then let you guys run the show. And tomorrow I'll be opening up on my visit with the Vice President of the United States and with the Small Business Administration, where I attended a meeting with elected officials before she spoke in Raleigh. And the primary comments, but I did get a few minutes of her time, got to talk to her about my family, where I was from. They were from in India, talk a little about the growth of the Indian community, and built some really good relationships with some of her team. So hopefully we can bring some people from the Vice President's office on the show. But the long and short of it is, I want to go through kind of what to talk about today. But the gist of the meeting was the Small Business Administration talking about loans, micro lending, the Latino Credit Union. It was really a focus on Latin American and Hispanic businesses, but the importance of small businesses and intergenerational wealth. The good news, it wasn't a partisan talk at all. It was only a talk about small business, the Vice President's experience with her mother and father having small businesses that they owned, and what she learned growing up in California from small business owners. It was a really great experience. I've been to the White House twice. I met the Vice President. I tell you, it's been fun. But we'll share. I'm going to open up tomorrow with that and talk a little bit about specific things I learned. But real quickly, before I'm going to leave a little early today, but the two more Memphis officers have been suspended over Tyre Nichols' death. The 29-year-old black man was beaten by police during a January 7th traffic stop, and the Memphis Police Department is under investigation. Coronavirus emergencies will end on May 11th. President Biden announced his move yesterday. The global economy isn't doing as badly as everyone thought. China, the U.S., and Europe have outperformed expectations with steady hiring in the U.S., although we still have a labor crisis. There was an attack on a mosque in Pakistan, killing 95. An ice storm is on its way, and Laverne and Shirley, Cindy Williams, Shirley on Laverne and Shirley, passed away at the age of 75. There was a spinoff from Happy Days. You all probably remember Laverne and Shirley.
We do.
But we could talk anyway. Those are the issues today. I'm here for about 10 minutes, and I got to head out again to a meeting. But I'll be back tomorrow. Things have been busy with lots of travel to my favorite city, the capital city, Washington D.C.
Oh, you're going back to Washington D.C.?
Yeah.
What's the reason this time? Why are you going back to D.C. this time, Steve?
I got
with the president now. You're done with the vice president.
No, I got some technology clients.
With the CIA.
When you're a lobbyist, you got to see where the sausage is made.
Oh, political horror. Okay, good.
Well,
I am a political.
And Nick, I put a comment for you in the comments.
Okay. Well, our fellow Canadian has just arrived.
Hey.
Good morning, Sasha.
Hey, Sasha. Okay, listen to this. This is big news for the network. Steve Rao yesterday met with the Vice President of the United States of America. If you
Who's
can imagine that. It's not as good as getting an audience with God, but it's God right.
Sasha, New York City's broken a record now for going the longest number of days in the winter with no snow. Have you got any snow up north?
No, we have a beautiful sunshine today. It's a little bit on the colder side, though, -7, but it's a beautiful day.
We've gone like 2 months with no snow in the winter in New York City.
Global warming.
It's global warming. You
Yeah,
get used
tell that to Buffalo, Nick.
And we love it.
Buffalo's a world unto itself. It's global warming, not
Utah.
Buffalo warming.
Utah is having a lot of moisture. We're very happy about it.
For all those
Real
people
quickly
listening to Buffalo, forget it.
So I've
Okay.
given you the
Buffalo's
topics.
lives don't matter.
Real quickly, an update on Ukraine. I'm going to head out for the day, but I'll be back tomorrow to
Oh,
open up on my vice president's visit and the beginning of Black History Month tomorrow. So we will maybe bring in some guests to talk about Black History Month. But most importantly, Shasta, what's going on in Ukraine today?
First of all, is there a White History Month ever?
No, we don't
No.
get a month. We
You
get a
don't,
whole year.
you don't need to care
Yeah.
about white
Dude,
people.
we get
Maybe
a
there
whole
should
year,
be.
so we don't care.
Okay.
Sasha, not everyone's in favor of Black History Month. You should know that, Steve. You know, you heard the famous quote from Morgan Freeman. He's not in favor of it either.
Yeah.
I just don't understand.
We have a Native American.
never been done in Canada and will never be, and I don't understand why state's doing it. But okay,
We call it Columbus
Well, we
Day.
might get into the history of it, when it was started, why it was started. I mean, I think maybe
A lot of it is American history. There's a lot of value there, a lot of richness.
If you're DeSantis, what you do is you just destroy all the history. So the thing is, there will be no history.
Whatever it is, you know.
Okay.
Well,
So
let's
DeSantis
come,
goes, let's just eradicate all of Black history.
okay. Let's come to what's happening in Ukraine. Actually, what's happening in
Ukraine still has a history.
Again, as I said, it could be discussed on several different levels, from the front lines activities, what's happening in economy, political, but especially on political, I would like to mention something very interesting. That in United States, the Republican Party is completely split on the Ukraine. The majority, they are blaming Biden for not sending the weapons on time, that being lazy and late with all this and so on. But there is a small minority of Republican Party who are saying no send of help to Ukraine and forget about it, no send, no money, nothing, no help whatsoever. So how it could be done in the same party?
Sasha,
Such a drastical.
Sasha,
Yes.
why is the world and the UN treating Ukraine different than Crimea when it was invaded from Russia? Why are the two different?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Well, because Crimea is just a
Remember
small
that
part
Crimea
of
is
Ukraine,
happening
which
when-
is predominantly Russian. From what
But
I
so what?
understand, Ukraine's a big bloody country.
No, I understand that, but either it's wrong or it's not wrong. Why now are we doing sending weapons and money and getting involved? But with Crimea, we just said, no, take it. Well, who cares?
Okay, what's happened with Crimea? It was when Obama was president, and he belittled Russia, saying that it's a local power, and was quite disrespectful to Russia at the time, without acting when it really needed to be acted upon. So when Russia very sneakily but very decisively and very fast annexed Crimea, so Obama was in no position whatsoever to act, because he just completely misplayed his hand at the time. So it happened basically in, say, 24 hours. There was no
Our intelligence services were sleeping?
Obama. Listen, I don't know his schedule for sure, but
No, I'm fair with him, but he has people working for him in the intelligence services. They're supposed to know what's going on in the ground around the world.
don't you think that people in intelligence service need to sleep?
No.
Well, to sleep.
Hey,
So,
Lee,
24 hours.
a news announcement. They can't even keep classified documents under control, let alone know what's going on in Russia. Okay.
Good point.
No, they
Oh, okay, so Crimea has happened, and there were some actions. There were a lot of economic sanctions and other sanctions. There was something was done, but of course, too little, too late, and it had almost no effect whatsoever. So when full invasion of Ukraine started in February of last year, that's completely different story. So Russia now wants to create a new world order. So what's an old world order which was established in 1945 with participation of Soviet Union and US and UK and maybe even France. I thought that France actually lost Second World War, but apparently somehow it was one of the winners from what we learned. I don't understand. And actually France, there was I had the exchange of messages with one very distinguished historian, and he is saying that in France, they're thinking that West should not really help Ukraine that much because Ukraine, listen to that, Ukraine was collaborating with Germany during Second World War. That was I didn't even know where to start, because if you remember the Russian Soviet Union attacks against Germany, there were 4 Ukrainian fronts, and they were all decisive to get Germans out from the Soviet Union. And Ukrainians were among the best fighters in the Soviet Union army. Now, if somebody collaborated with Germany during the Second World War, it was obviously France. So now, and he was explaining why France and Germany are saying that they don't want to have Ukraine in the European Union because Ukraine collaboration. So the Germany itself, who committed all the crimes of Second World War, and France, who collaborated with Germany during Second World War, they are in European Union, and not just average members. They actually made almost all decision making in European Union. And Ukraine, who fighted the Germany during Second World War, and now they're fighting imperialist Russia, which is a menace for all the world. They're talking about nuclear arms, that they're going to use it, and they want to bomb London, and they will start necessarily with London, because London is the biggest enemy of Russia. So they will definitely start with London. Now, Paris and some other stuff like Berlin and others, it will go later, but London is target number 1. So that's what they're talking about all the time. And just for that talk alone, they alienated China big time, because China and India as well too, they said that in 21st century, that's not the way to discuss issues, and not even to use nuclear weapons, but even just talking about that is already a crime. It's destabilizing the world, and this should be treated as really a crime. So now West, with the help of heroic Ukrainian soldiers, without stepping their foot on the ground, without losing a single life, we can now bring Russia to responsibilities and to really to bring it to the account. Is it a good option for the West, for the United States? That's not my decision. That has to be decided by the West, by the United States. What's happening now is that the United States and the West supplying weapons, money. Ukrainians are supplying their lives. That's really what's happening.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much, Stasha, for that update. I'm going to be back tomorrow to open up with my visit with the Vice President and just share insight about small business recovery efforts by the Biden administration. And the good news, folks, it wasn't a partisan talk. It was only a talk about the programs in place and opportunities to access capital for small businesses. And I must say, the Vice President did a pretty good job. So we'll talk about that.
Did she talk about yellow school buses? Did she talk about yellow school buses?
Only small businesses and micro loans.
Steve, did you pin her down for dates coming on the podcast?
I think that might be hard, but you never know. But I don't know what the process of getting this. Yeah, and I think I think you have to be like on a national television network like
Hey,
CNBC or
we
CNN.
got a note from CNN that we're competing with them, and so they don't want to be on our network. Seriously.
No, we're beating them in many cases.
Yeah, because CNN doesn't get
Well,
that many.
Well, I'll be back on tomorrow morning to open up, guys. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful day, and remember to talk about some of these things. And we're going to start getting into kind of gearing up on the 2024 elections. Before we know it, it's going to be here. Thank you all
Did
so
she
much.
laugh? Did she
That's
laugh?
correct.
I want to know. Did she laugh?
Yes, she laughed. That's the only weird thing. She's got that smile and laugh all the time.
Yeah, like giggle. So it's like a nervous giggle, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Well, you'd be nervous
I
if you
think-
were vice president of the United States.
I think, but Dan, I think it is. It's a habit. I don't think she's doing it intentionally. I think it's just a.
I think she's just nervous, and that's what she does.
Yeah, probably.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think
It's
so.
a pretty
I think
intense
it's a-
position.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I think
think
it's a
frankly, it's a
nervous.
lot of work.
You know,
Well, it's better to
you gotta-
smile and frown. I will say she's very tall and she's very charismatic in person. There's no
Oh, yeah,
question.
I bet. Yeah.
You have to be if you're a politician.
Yeah. Willie
Yeah,
Brown.
no, but
thought,
she has tremendous charisma.
What, Dan?
I mean, yeah.
Willie Brown thought she was great. I mean, yeah. Some of the criminals in California didn't think she was so great, but
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Hey there,
Thank
folks.
you all.
Steve, you can hand off the baton to Mark now.
I'll be
Yeah, I'll
briefing
hand it
them on
off
my
the
visit.
baton.
You
with
can
Trump
hand the
tomorrow.
baton to Mark. I don't know if Mark visited the vice president.
I
She
did
was
not
in your
visit the vice
city.
president, even though they were in Raleigh. I don't think it was actually
I
Durham.
thought
So
she
I
was
did not
in
get.
Durham.
I
you should
believe it was
have
actually Raleigh that she was
been able
in.
to visit her. Yeah,
But she's definitely been in Durham before, and she's definitely got some strong sorority ties and all in that space. But
I
I've
think
yet
it's
to
crazy.
have the
He didn't
chance
visit.
to meet her. I definitely just missed the chance to meet Obama when he was campaigning the first time, because I was actually campaigning for him. And by the time they got back to Blue Coffee, he had already left. Which
You
is
mean
actually
you
such is life. Opportunity missed.
opportunity missed. But
That's
you know,
right.
one of the favorite things that not Sasha, that Steve always talks about is infrastructure. And apparently, while the vice president was visiting North Carolina, President Biden was visiting Baltimore to discuss upgrades to the newly named Frederick Douglass Tunnel. So apparently, there's a century-old train tunnel there in Baltimore and New York that's going to get funding from Biden's infrastructure laws and all of that. So
Is he
apparently,
gonna
some people
hide
are protesting it as well. So what are we thinking about this infrastructure bill and the fact that they're going to fix the Hudson Tunnel, which is now the newly named Frederick Douglass Tunnel?
Mark, where does it go? From where to where does the tunnel go?
Is this a Baltimore thing?
It's a
it's
Baltimore.
Baltimore,
I think it's the Central Train Tunnel in Baltimore, New York. So my guess is it probably goes from Baltimore to New York. But that's what I'm just.
Oh, it's tunnel from Baltimore. Okay.
Have they
Well-
they
Wait a
underground?
minute. Baltimore to New York tunnel.
I'm going to find that right now. But yeah, that's what the thing was, that he was in Baltimore talking about it. But let's see exactly where it goes, or if it's separate ones and all in that space.
Come on now.
have they thought of high-speed rail trains? Hello?
I know,
Like
that's
Amtrak?
something you're- I know that's something you're big on,
They've
Nick.
got
But
Amtrak.
Because
and
it's
definitely,
big in
you know, a lot of
China,
people are big on it. We've
yeah,
had
it's
some.
big in Europe and the
big on
United
it.
States. We're still using these the Chattanooga choo-choo to get around, and in China they're using high-speed rail. And every time I get on the Chinese blogs, they rip me apart saying, "You idiot USA people, you stupid people, you're still doing cars which pollute. Your trains are from the turn of the other century," and then they show their beautiful high-speed rail trains versus our Chattanooga choo-choo, and they're right.
Well, you know,
Yeah,
Chattanooga
and-
choo-choo,
and-
just to
and you may not
be
meet
clear
them in
as to
Salt Lake
what
in the middle of
Biden was
nowhere.
doing, he's going to travel to your neck of the woods, Lee. He's going to travel to New York City on Tuesday, so maybe you can go over there and shake his hands and everything to announce a $292 million mega grant funding, part of the Hudson Tunnel project, courtesy of the massive infrastructure package that was signed into law on November of 2021. So it's taken him almost a year and a half to get stuff done. But Biden's trip to the Big Apple comes on the heel of Monday stop in Baltimore, Maryland, celebrating the planned replacement of a 150-year-old tunnel, and previous trips earlier this month to Kentucky and the southern border, given a strong impression that he's planning a re-election campaign based on where he's going. But the Hudson Tunnel project, he says, will result in 7,200 good-paying jobs, rehabilitate the old river tunnel, which opened in 1910, build a new tunnel beneath the Palisades, Hudson River, and the waterfront area in Manhattan, and improve reliability for 200,000 weekday passengers on New Jersey Transit and
Okay.
Amtrak. And that's what a White House official says.
Mark, stop all the BS. Does it have a high-speed rail train as part of the project? If not,
Probably not.
I'm not interested. Okay, you're just doing the same old thing over and over again. And I used to live in the New York City area. You can't get around because the cars are going to be bumper to bumper, getting in and out of the HUD. Forget it. It's a waste of time, waste of money. Unless they put a high-speed rail train in,
Take a
all he's
cab.
doing is he's throwing money at stuff and
Well,
clapping.
apparently in 2020, passengers experienced, and this is a nice little figure, 12,653 minutes of delay due to problems caused by the aging tunnel infrastructure and remnants of seawater that entered the
And if
tunnel
you're gonna
in
build-
2012 during
Dude.
Superstorm Sandy, which I remember that. Actually, that was the one time, y'all are going to love this, but I remember going to an event, I think it was in 2013, with some of my even further to the left friends and everything. And we all observed that was when the tunnels were very much cleaned out because Sandy kind of like wiped away the graffiti and everything. So
But
kind of cleaned it up.
we're wasting our
Cleaned
time,
them
we're
out.
wasting our
Cleaned out
money.
the tunnels, right?
There's no high-speed rail going through the Hudson River. If so, trash the whole project and start all over again.
Yeah, I
Because
agree.
even in Europe, you have a high-speed rail that goes under the English Channel. I wrote it before.
Nick?
And you go from London to Paris very quickly.
Nick, would it not be easier just to move these jobs
Just
elsewhere?
another third world country, America. Stay in your third world lane and forget about it. Yeah, Lee.
These are mostly office jobs. Why don't they just move some of the jobs to New Jersey and other areas so people don't need to come into Manhattan?
Well, good luck with that one when you have like millions and millions of people that live there and they need access to it. But the thing is, you can have smart access. You can have high-speed rail like they have in Tokyo. They have it in Spain. They have it in Italy. They have it in Europe. They have it in China. Or you can have the Chattanooga choo-choo along with the antique car. Okay.
They have the path. They have the path trains already to New Jersey. They have Long Island Railroad.
Worthless.
A high-speed
Worthless.
rail
Trash
system
it.
in New England. They shouldn't be paying for that. Why should people in Utah be paying for a high-speed rail system in New York? We don't care.
I know you don't care, but see in Utah, you guys can get around with your stupid cars because no one lives out there. There's a big
We
world
have
called
people
New York City. Okay, I know Salt Lake City doesn't
No,
understand
but
that.
Nick, but to Dan's point, though, let the users pay for it.
Live in your
They
whole
don't
bloody state.
understand.
So
They
you
don't
know,
understand us. That's the problem. Have you
Yeah.
ever looked at an electoral map?
yeah, you guys get more votes,
it's
and that's the problem with the
mostly-
electoral system.
It's
You got
mostly
Utah, and you
It's
got Wyoming
red.
that have more power and votes than
it's
places
only
like
the
New York
big
City,
cities that are there's only the big cities that are blue, and so that means there's a big split or gap in the perception of reality between the political needs of the big cities versus everyone else in the United States, and it's an imbalance both fiscally and other ways. The big cities are not functional. They're over expensive. They're not working, and that is the truth. They're a failed experiment. They
Big
cannot
cities are a
sustain
failed
them. They are. They're a failed.
Well, you can argue that some of the big cities are obsolete, especially with the internet being around. However, here's my argument, Dan. If you're going to rebuild infrastructure in the United States, make it efficient. High-speed rail has been proven to be efficient in China, in Tokyo, in Europe, in the United States. We're building Chattanooga choo-choos, and we're building turn-of-the-century cars.
Well, do it east to
We
west.
got to get rid of that transportation
Not-
model.
Not
Bad.
not so that the New York people can get between Washington and New York City faster. I don't
That's
care.
right.
I don't
No,
care.
you don't care because you're in Salt Lake, but unfortunately, Salt Lake doesn't. No one lives out there. You have to imagine the eastern part of the United States is a huge population.
That's
base.
their choice, though.
No, it's look at the map of the United States.
All right.
80% of the
Let me tell you
population
a little
live
bit about the state of
up
New York.
in Mississippi, baby.
They put all
80%.
of their
We get
resources-
80% of the money because we
They
live
put
to the Mississippi.
they put all their resources in New York City and in Albany. The rest of the state is a backwater. The rest of the state lacks infrastructure. They have poor water control systems, poor electrical, poor telecommunication systems, because the legislators in the state of New York do not care about the majority of the state, which is mostly red. They only care about the blue corridor.
It's
They
because
don't
there's more
care
people that live there. I mean,
Anybody
you have to, that's where the voters are. That's where
Nick,
the people live.
So let them pay for the services that they require.
Farmers that live in
Nick?
Wyoming. No one gives a rat's rear about Wyoming.
Nick, let them pay for the services they require.
There's anyway. I mean,
You know,
forget
tax
Wyoming.
the hell out of
Get
them.
rid of the whole state.
They're the
Well,
ones that
there's more people that live in my suburb than live in the whole state of Wyoming. It's a waste.
them
Denise,
pay-
I would like to mention something. I don't think
Yeah,
it's
go
a
ahead.
correct 100% to compare the development of railways, high-speed railway, in Europe, China, and many other countries, and United States. United States is a classical automotive country. People get used to automobile, auto. It doesn't matter. It's an electric vehicle or it's a guzzling vehicle or whatever it was, a diesel vehicle. It doesn't matter. People get used to cars, really, much more so than Europe and China and many other countries who are developing high-speed rail system. So majority of people there actually using that and benefiting from that. United States is a different story.
That argument doesn't cut any water. Okay,
Really?
do you use
I'm
a
not
cellular
sure.
phone or you use a smartphone? I use a smartphone. Wait a minute, I got used to the cellular phone, so I'm going to keep the cellular phone. Who gives a rat's rear what we used to be? You got to be what you're going to be. Are you going to jump into
But you
the
see, I
21st
don't
century?
think there is
Are you going to compete with China?
Eventually,
Or are you going to be a backwater third world
You
country?
can compete
choice,
with
baby.
China,
Your
just
choice,
get
third world
more
USA.
nuclear
There we go.
weapons. That's all.
Hey,
Get more
hey, Nick,
nuclear weapons and more missiles. That's
Hey,
how
Nick,
you
hey,
And
Nick
China
and
argues that
Sasha.
too. We're spending 800 billion on defense, and where's our high-speed rail? The Chinese
Yeah, I
are
hear
going
what you're
to
saying,
stop.
but
You're
hey,
going
Nick and
to spend
Sasha.
all this money on
all you
bloody
need is missiles
military, and you're not spending any on your
and
infrastructure.
nuclear weapons.
Hey,
That's
Nick
all
and
what-
Sasha, one of the parts that's near Russia is, and I know that Sasha has joked that maybe the U.S. will concede it back to Russia and everything, is Alaska. And apparently the Biden administration has stopped a controversial pebble mine because apparently it's going to do a lot of harm to the salmon there. So the fishermen, the tribes, and the other opponents of the mine are hoping the decision is going to stop the project, but the copper and gold prospect developers and the state of Alaska have threatened legal action. So we might be going back and forth, but apparently, at least in this case, the environmentalists supposedly have won because the project is on the state line about 200 miles southwest of Anchorage near Bristol Bay's headwaters. So apparently the salmon have won this particular fight and everything, and the folks are very much glad about that because apparently the commercial fishery is worth about $2 billion annually and supports about 15,000 jobs. Speaking of jobs and everything, but the Pebble deposit contains minerals worth hundreds of billions of dollars, and supporters say development there would create new jobs and support the Alaska economy. But apparently that's not good enough for the environmentalists and everybody else because they said that the salmon are going to win this particular fight. So any thoughts about the salmon winning the fight and maybe some jobs being lost? Apparently the Alaska governor, Mike Dunleavy, urged the EPA in September not to veto the project, but he didn't win in this particular case.
Dude, there's plenty of salmon up in Alaska. I actually went to go see it. I mean, they're bumper to bumper salmon all up and down Alaska. So if an environmentalist has a problem, they need to first leave Alaska and go somewhere where there is a problem, like Washington State, where the salmon have all dried up. Go there to go to Oregon. But come on, Alaska, they're full of salmon. And frankly, environmentalists are full of BS for the most part, like that Greta Thunberg lady. All she is a hyper. I mean, you know, why would anyone listen to her? She has no education, no background. Her parents are actors, and people are listening to her. Are you serious? She goes to the UN and goes, "You're screwing my generation. You're me. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you speak in front of the United Nations? You're a little kid moron." They should have kicked her out. And frankly, if anything, that showed how bad the United Nations is, how incompetent they are, because they should have never allowed that stupid, ignorant person on stage. My my thoughts to the environmentalists.
Well,
speaking
Nick,
of
maybe
the-
compared to them, she's not so stupid.
Opinions
Pardon?
on
She's not.
Maybe compared to the UN, she's not so stupid.
Obviously, you're right there, Lee. Because the thing is, they had to be stupid to let her have any
Let her
stage
in.
time.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, so this shows you how incompetent the United
Hey,
Nations.
but Nick, speaking of folks that are being
You
stupid,
wouldn't-
and this is
look,
one of
my
Sasha's
industry
favorite
would
people and
never
everything. I'm
invite-
going back to
my
Sasha,
industry
but
would never
apparently
invite somebody
Mr.
like
Trump is
that
suing one of the most
anywhere.
esteemed journalists of all times and everything. Many people remember Bob Woodward because of Watergate and everything, but Mr. Trump is suing him for releasing audio of their interview. So he's outraged over the whole book interviews process and everything, and now he's going after him, and that's his latest suit. So he's gonna sue Bob Woodward for releasing the interview recording. So any
What-
thoughts around this?
What was he
Suing
waiting
doesn't mean you
for
have
so
a
long?
claim. The guy
This
lost. He had a
interviews and his
frivolous
book were
lawsuit. He
published long
lost
time
$1 million.
ago.
Because Woodward,
Why was he
Woodward-
waiting for so long? I don't understand.
Woodward
Look,
said
look,
only-
Here's the history of Donald Trump. Okay, and people don't know. He hires the worst lawyers that graduated from the bottom law schools that desperately need jobs, who'll
They're
sue
cheap.
anybody for anything. That's his legal team. All right. He doesn't hire the best and the brightest. All the lawyers know the best firms, which, by the way, Dan, I hate to say it, they're not in Salt Lake. They're in New York City.
Oh,
None of
they're
them
all-
work for Donald
yeah,
Trump.
or on K Street, right?
They're in where?
Well, by the way, these
They
interviews were
won't
not
work
that
for Donald Trump
First
because
off, the
they
interviews
know
were not that long
they
ago.
don't
They were
want
in
their
2019
paralyzed
and 2020.
Right,
But
why
he,
they spent out this lawsuit.
hey,
So
but
in
Nick,
New York-
Nick, hold on a second, because he's actually going after some pretty
bottom of the barrel
big.
to
He's pretty,
represent him.
but he's going after some pretty big dogs and everything. Because end of the lawsuit that he filed on Monday, it's against both Woodward, Simon and Schuster, which is a major publishing
Yeah,
company, and the
but-
publisher's parent company, Paramount
Mark,
Global. Trump
Mark,
claimed that although he had
here-
given
who
Woodward
cares?
consent to record their conversation
Who cares?
for the sole purpose
Who
of the book, that didn't extend to packaging those recordings
Mark,
as an audio.
name the law firm. Name the law firm that filed the suit on his behalf. Give me the name of the law firm. I know all the best law firms in the country. Give me the name.
Why don't you Google it and find out?
Yeah, I've Googled a lot of his law firms. It's John Jones, attorney at law, who graduated from fourth-tier law school, who barely has a job, who's desperate to file a suit because he needs the money, and that's the person Donald Trump tried.
Well,
Nick,
apparently
the
Trump
problem
is-
is while he does
They're
it,
not
because
Travis Swain and Moore. They're
Well,
not.
his attorneys
They're
apparently
not-
are Robert
They're
Garson
not
and
lawyers.
Yanini Zilberman.
as much
That's who
as
the
they
attorneys
need
are.
money,
Robert
Those are the
Garson
only
Trump
people
is
and
not
Yanini
paying
Zilberman.
his lawyers anyway. So
Right.
they need money, but they're not getting anything from Trump.
Oh, then he stiffs them.
Problem.
You're right. Right. Okay, you're right. And then what happens? Hey, Sasha, this shows you how bad business people are. Then after he hires them, he stiffs them. And then they go, oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? They're not only graduate from the bottom of the deck in law school, they're
Nick-
also horrible business
Nick,
people.
they never heard of getting a retainer?
What?
They never heard of getting a retainer up front?
Some will actually do it pro bono because they're that desperate. Then they can go tell people, well, didn't you see the guy who I represent Donald Trump. And then I go look at his
But apparently he's
credentials.
doing this in Florida because
He
apparently
graduated
he's
from what
claiming
they call
that he's a
fourth-tier
Florida
law school.
resident and
It's not
the
even
defendants
it's
generally do
questionable
business
whether
there.
law school's even around anymore. And the guy barely passes the bar, and he represents Donald Trump. And I've seen all his attorneys, and I go, does he ever hire a top-tiered law firm? The answer is no. Does the press bring it out? No. You know why they don't bring it out? Because most people in the press are not top-tiered lawyers. So they don't even know what a top-tiered law firm is. You know, they can't distinguish between a Sullivan and Cromwell and Barnum and Bailey's Circus Act. So the thing is, they never bring it out. But I'm
Are they
telling
still
you,
around?
it is true. It's like a grandmaster.
Are they still around, Barnum and Bailey's?
900 player.
I think
Okay,
Barnum and
I
Bailey's
hired
are
a
around.
900 player to show me how to play
I
chess.
think they've been put out of business.
All chess players know that 900 players do not play grandmaster chess. All good lawyers know good lawyers do not represent Donald Trump. Not his fault. He's able to get these fools to represent him, but I'll go take a look at it, and I'm going to see it again for the umpteenth time. Some lawyer graduated from the bottom of the deck of his class in some fourth-tiered law school, and he files suit so he can go,
Nick?
I represent Donald Trump. Great.
Didn't Alan Dershowitz represent Trump on something?
I don't think so. But
I think he was his advisor on the impeachment trial.
Oh, he
That
was in
could
the
be.
I was on the
Or
impeachment
witness, maybe even. I'm not so
All
sure.
right.
No, he never appeared.
I didn't think he should be impeached as much as I am.
Well,
Great.
just to
I was not for that impeachment proceeding at all. Number one or number two. They
just
didn't. They didn't have a leg
to
to
Lee's
stand
point,
on.
just
It
because
was
I did
all
a little
focused,
googling and double checking and
That was all
everything.
fake
Nick?
news.
Yeah.
Hey, Lee, just to get to
Yes.
the point that you made, Barnum and Bailey is actually still around. They did take a pandemic break, but they are coming back in the fall of 2023. So they announced their long-awaited return, and I think that partly was because of the pandemic, not because of their economics. But they are coming
Got
back and all in that
Well,
space. So
we
yes,
knew
Barnum
Trump
and
was
Bailey does
running
still
again.
exist.
What do you mean? That's not news. We knew Trump's running again.
Is he? Where is he running? To the toilet or where?
No, Barnum and Bailey. Trump is running again. I know they're. That's the circus is coming back to town.
So he's coming
Well,
back in town?
We're saying that is the circus. Yes, that is true. That is another part of the circus and everything. So that is very much true. Speaking of circuses and all in that kind of space, tell me something, and maybe Nick has an idea, or maybe Sasha has an idea. But one of the other articles I saw that was kind of a unique article, but it was still an interesting article is, we have all these animals, and some of them are some very interesting animals, but how do you go ahead and miss an entire monkey in the Dallas Zoo? Because apparently 2 monkeys are missing in a suspicious incident. So I'm guessing somebody walked into the Dallas Zoo and walked out with a couple of monkeys. So how do you walk out with a couple of monkeys and all in that space?
on your
Because they're
back.
saying that it's the 4th
Monkey-
suspicious incident. So apparently this is not the first time the monkeys have gone missing and all in that space. Maybe they're all in Washington and everything, but I don't know. Maybe they're in the White House, or in the Congress. But they are apparently 2 Dallas monkeys missing. And I'm going like, how do you just walk into a zoo and walk out with some monkeys?
Well, that's what they do. They walk in and they walk out on their shoulders. That's where they go. It's really that simple.
They just jumped on their back and said, hey, there's a couple of humans here.
Hey, I want to go see the town.
They
I
want to
want
go see the town.
Have a night on the town is what they said to them, when they just took them.
Just
And
jumped
what
on the
they call
person's
that?
person.
They call that monkey business.
That's totally monkey business. And there's quite a bit of that goes on in the very different halls of politics and the halls of businesses and the halls of a number of other places. So yeah, that monkey business.
No, I think
Does
they probably joined Barnum and Bailey because they're coming out again.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah,
They
probably.
were going to be protected.
They joined the circus. They, because that's the thing to do for them.
Well, there were a couple of unusual stories because I'm still trying to figure out because there was also a story about a suburban school worker that apparently stole 11,000 cases of chicken wings in a 1.5 million embezzlement scheme. If you're
Wow.
going to do an embezzlement scheme, why are you going to do it with chicken wings? But apparently that's a big thing. But they embezzled and they got away with like 1.5 million and all in that space. And this was actually a school worker that did it, a suburban
That's a
school
heck of
worker that just said, "Hey,
a wing roast or what, right? They had a barbecue and had their friends over. Had the whole
Oh,
city over, bro.
I should have known it, by the way, Dan. It was in Chicago. Cook County prosecutors have charged the former head of food services at a southern suburban school district of engaging in a massive embezzlement scheme in which she allegedly stole more than 11,000 cases of chicken wings and 1.5 million in taxpayer funds over a 19-month period. So that's
That's a lot to cackle about.
that is a whole lot to calculate about.
That's a lot of box.
It's like the monkey. How do you just walk out with that amount and all in that space?
And what do you do with it?
Exactly.
Resell it somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
You would buy meat on the street?
See, we could have taken that money and put it into high-speed rail.
High-speed rail, that could be the case and everything.
Okay, I got the lowdown on the lawyer who filed the suit.
Up the
Okay,
last-
Okay, you
Okay,
have to load down.
You'll love this. Only in America. Okay, they filed it in the Federal District Court of Pennsylvania. The name of the law firm is GS2 Law. GS2 Law. Are you serious?
It was
For
law.
years,
Florida.
lawyers were not allowed to use anything but their own names in law firms. He did GS2 Law because he's not a name. He went to the University of Manchester. Oh boy, that's really highly ranked school. Never heard of it. City University, where he got his diploma in law, according to this. Inns of Court School of Law, our vocational course. Did this guy even go to law school? And then he went to the Benjamin N. Cardozo School of Law for his LLM, which means his Juris Doctorate degree, if that is a Juris Doctorate degree, was a bar vocational course. That's the person that Donald Trump hired. Okay? So
Hey,
just get real here, buddy.
Hey,
This
no,
is-
hey, that's what he
like I
hires and
said,
everything. Hey, I got a
bottom
question
of
for.
El
Hold on a second.
Barrel,
I got a question for Dan because I know he's not the biggest fan of the
Understood.
California area, but apparently there's a lone holdout in a Colorado River cut proposal. So California, of course, is the lone holdout, but 6 western states that rely on water from the Colorado River had agreed on a model to dramatically cut water use in the basin months after the federal action called for action and an initial deadline passed. California, with the largest allocation of water from the river, is the lone holdout, but the Colorado River and its tributaries pass through 7 states and into Mexico, serving 40 million people and $5 billion a year agricultural industry. Some of the largest cities in the country, including Los Angeles, Phoenix, Denver, and Las Vegas, two Mexican states, Native American tribes, and others depend on the river that's been severely stressed by drought, demand, and overuse. And like I said, Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, your state of Utah sent a letter Monday to Reclamation, which operates the major dams in the river system, to outline an alternative that builds on existing guidelines, deepens water cuts, and factors in water that's lost through evaporation and transportation, because apparently California doesn't want to cooperate. So they had to come up with an alternative plan and all in that way. So what are your thoughts about that? Because those states are proposing raising the level where water reductions would be triggered at Lake Mead and Lake Powell, which are barometers of the river's health and all of that. But definitely it looks like California is not cooperating with the rest of the states in the
Well,
West.
California is downstream, so they have no choice. So, they're sort of at the end.
Hey, you know what, Mark? That's a
Uh-huh.
Western problem. We're not interested. They only have 20% of the population. And if they cut off the Western United States, the U.S. would still be a big, major power. So who gives a rat's rear of the Western? The Eastern.
Nick, I'm glad you brought that up because I'm talking to a friend of mine and they actually sent me a
Focus in on
video
Eastern
of the
seaboard.
Hey, but I'm glad you brought that up because they actually sent me a video. It was actually a scary video, but it was of the iceberg. There was a major iceberg break that was, I think, held either
There
yesterday
you go.
or the
Icebergs
day
have plenty of
before and
water.
everything. And now there are people that are, knowing that we do have fault lines throughout the United States, there are even some here on the east and everything. Is there any danger? We've been talking about this for years, but now that we've seen this cut take place in the icebergs up there around, I believe, the North Pole, is there any possibility that we're going to see California or New York or Florida just kind of like drop off into the ocean and become
Yes.
like the next Atlas?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's a true probability because they've already done a study. If all the ice in Greenland melts,
Mhm.
and I've flown over Greenland several times, it is amazing how big that place is with ice. If all it was to melt, Mark, sea levels would raise 20 feet in the United States. So if you're not 20 feet above sea level, there's a good chance you're going to be having beachfront property. But it's going to take a while.
And Nick, are you sure? Or is it like Guam tipping over according to Hank Johnson?
Pardon?
Remember the congressman with Hank Johnson said Guam is going to tip over if too many people go on one side of the island?
No, I think Guam will be submerged. But the thing is, for that to happen,
Balance it
all
out.
the ice in Greenland would have to melt, Lee. And that takes a little bit stronger global warming than we're seeing right now.
Did
And
Did you see the break? Because that break looked very severe. I mean, it was like they said it was about the size of I want to say like some major cities, if not some major.
Yeah, but see, an isolated iceberg isn't going to do much. But the thing is, but if you're able to melt all the ice in Greenland, oh yeah, then you would find you wouldn't need you'd need everything to be underwater in New York City because the city would be underwater. It would be like Venice on steroids because.
Well, that's one solution for the cities in America.
Yeah, you wouldn't mind that. Hey, you're safe in Salt Lake, Dan.
Yeah,
Okay,
pretty much, yeah.
there's no even the Salt Lake, which is by the way dried up. I've flown over that a lot too. Salt Lake
Actually,
is
we've had a lot of
drying up. I mean,
had
the
a lot
thing
of
is,
moisture.
it's not going to be Salt Lake anymore. It's just going to be salt.
Yeah, there are very few drought-stricken areas in Utah now because of the moisture.
Yeah, you got refreshed.
this winter. Oh yeah,
Yeah, you got a lot of rain coming in.
which is a real blessing. I mean, it devastated California, but but it really helped us. So
Right. Yeah, you have a lot of rain coming in. So we have any news around the world, or is everything?
We do have some news around the world. One of the things is that apparently, and I know Sasha's going to love this one, but the Human Rights Watch group is urging an investigation of alleged use of landmines by, of all people, Ukraine. I thought Ukraine was trying to defend themselves and everything, but they're urging an investigation of landmines by the Ukrainian army and all in that space. And then inexpensive drones are apparently helping the Ukrainian troops keep control of Bakhmut. So apparently those drones, and I actually know some folks that have flown those drones, are helping going on in that space. But so those are lovely social rights and civil rights groups that are saying, hey, wait a minute, what's going on over there and in that space? And we talk about China's influence in Africa, and I don't know if Sasha's got any thoughts about what I just said, but we also talk about China's influence in Africa. Apparently the Pope is also trying to get influence in Africa because he's going on an African trip where he's going to spotlight the conflicts that are in Africa and the church's future. So I guess he's going to try to recruit more Catholics in from the African nations. That would be
actually guess. Several African countries, especially really in the center of Africa, are controlled by private army headed by Prigozhin, so-called Wagner Group. Okay, yeah. So Wagner Group now is being recognized as an international criminal terrorist organization, and hopefully they will be taken out. But right now, it seems to me that Africa is not the most important place in the world to act or discuss it or so on, because China has a great influence in Africa. This private Prigozhin's group, Wagner Group, is doing quite well in Central Africa. And I think United States probably doesn't see any business opportunities there to put their resources, time, into dealings in Africa, at least at this point. I don't know in the future, but right now I don't think that the United States is really interested to do something about Africa, period.
How much lithium does Africa have, and the U.S. doesn't want to have any interest in that when we are a technological society and all of that? Because I think that there's a decent amount of lithium and other things that are needed for technology in some of those African nations. So now I think that we might want to reconsider that if that's not our policy and everything, because they're definitely.
Do you know a story about it's happened at the end of the 19th century? One German food manufacturer, actually, who were making shoes, shoe manufacturers, they sent 2 salesmen to Africa to figure out opportunities there. So one writes in his report that it's a fantastic opportunity. There are no one has even a pair of shoes. We can sell as many shoes as we can. Another one wrote report, sorry, there is no business in Africa because nobody is wearing any shoes. So then what you do is that?
One thing, there's been a number of major developments, including some developments around the world that actually came out of the African continent and from a historical standpoint, but that could be a whole history lesson that we could go into on another time. But I was going to bring up another issue that is involving Canada, because apparently one of those lovely provinces in Canada, you asked about world issues and everything, but a Canada province is experimenting with decriminalizing hard drugs. So they're saying, hey, we can't win the war against drugs, so why not decriminalize cocaine? And that's going on in British Columbia. So any thoughts around this? And is this something that we need to look at in the U.S. and other parts of the world? Because they're like saying, hey, can't win it, so let's just go ahead and decriminalize it. So it's not just a marijuana question, but they're actually going after the hard drugs as well.
Hey, Mark, it's a mental health issue. I mean, it shouldn't be criminal anyway. What the drugs, use of drugs, legal or illegal, it all deals with mental health. It's not shouldn't be a crime. The people that take these drugs.
What do you mean mental health?
Pardon? From
the drug stand, what do you mean mental health? Everyone who takes drugs recreational or otherwise has a
No. If you take drugs recreationally, you probably have mental health issues. Okay, I take drugs.
Well, why do you say that?
I have to take drugs to live. Okay. If I taking, and I had to take them since I was a kid. I
understand it, but a lot of people, let's say college kids, they'll take drugs.
Just mental health issue. If your mental health is good, you're not going to take illegal drugs. It just ain't going to happen. Okay. But if your mental health is off just a little bit, you're going to go, oh, maybe I should try this thing. Maybe I should try that.
But
thing.
Nick, some people
It's
use those drugs as an enhancement to their education. I know some
Why
people that use
criminalize
different
drugs?
drugs because it is a way to stay awake or to enhance their memories or a number of other
Yeah, right.
things. I'm not saying that I condone it, but that is definitely what some people do.
That's
Just like they
mental
do alcohol and other things.
Okay, because somewhere along the line, if you say I need to stay awake to do X, Y, Z, okay, there's an imbalance in your self-esteem saying I need something outside of me to make me better, and it's a mental health issue. So
Not necessarily. You went to college, Nick. A lot of in college you had finals. You had things called all-nighters sometimes.
no, I never did any of that stuff. Are you kidding me? And people that are mental who have good mental health, they don't do any of that stuff.
He has a
But
dynamic.
most of the people in the United States aren't good mentally. I mean, they're unstable at some level, and so what they do is they
Right.
do drugs. Now we criminalize it. That's a crime.
Not
So you're saying decriminalize it, but we should concentrate more on the mental health aspect of
Yes.
people's lives.
No, I agree with
That's
that and
exactly
everything.
right.
Speaking
In
of
other
which, and I
words,
know you
Concentrate more on the mental health aspects of people's life, but because we're still doing 18th century law, oh, we have somebody who did something illegal, we're going to send them to the gallows. Or no, we're going to have to.
No, I
have
mean,
a
yeah,
trial.
a lot of things need to be
it's
decriminalized. There's no doubt about that. But
Right.
I'm sorry, Nick, Mark, one second. Nick just brought up a point, and I think it's a good point, Nick. Maybe all laws should be stricken from the books, every 5 years and re-voted on to get rid of the
This is an ancient system that exists.
Right.
It's like our education system.
They never take laws off the
The
books.
system was designed for the turn of the other century, and our laws relating to drugs are from the turn of 2 other centuries.
No, I
it's
mean,
not
we've
criminal
definitely
aspect.
not moved, but a lot of things
So
we
if
haven't
you had
moved.
somebody come to me and I'm a judge and he was smoking marijuana, dismissed. Oh, he is on cocaine, dismissed. Give me
How about the
some-
dealers, Nick? How would you deal with the dealers who are feeding your kids fentanyl?
Well, first off, Lee, which dealers are we talking about? Because they're government dealers that supply the thing to the other dealers. So are we going to go after the big dealers and everything?
We should.
Yeah. Okay. Poison is a different story, obviously. Okay.
So where do you draw the line?
Poisoning people, then that's a different story. In other words, if I slipped poison into your drink, okay, like fentanyl in your drink, that's a crime. That's a whole different cat.
Yeah, that's a whole
But
different
usually
cat.
if you decide,
But,
hey, I'm
hey,
going to go buy
Nick-
some fentanyl and I'm going to ingest it.
Yeah.
Then hey, dude, I'm not going to put you in jail. You die. Hey, wait. Too
How
bad.
about a
Dude.
roofie? Is that?
But I will treat it as a mental health case because
No, I
obviously
know
you
what you're
have
saying,
problems.
Nick, but I do have 2
That's
quick
all.
things
By the
before
way,
we get ready to
yours
wrap
really
up and
is
everything, because I do know that the French Union is
have.
protesting against Macron's pension reform plans and all of that. So those protests are going on there in France. So I do want to mention that real quickly. But I do want to get back to another case of a lost item, and this will be the last thing that I bring up because I was talking about the lost monkeys earlier. But apparently there's a lost item in Australia as well. And I'm more concerned about the lost item in Australia because apparently Austria nuclear body has joined the search for a missing radioactive capsule. So there's a missing radioactive capsule somewhere there in Australia. Maybe Shaq's got it. We don't know. Shaq's not here, but he's actually in Dubai. Maybe that's we took to Dubai and everything. But it is missing, and it is definitely gone and all in that space. But is anybody concerned about the fact that there's a whole missing radioactive capsule in?
Maybe somebody took it home and put it by their Corvette.
It could be. Hey, Sasha says time.
And Sasha is correct because it's time for us to get to his show as well. So it is definitely time and all in that space. So we get ready to end on that note, and we'll go check out about Ukraine and Russia on the other side and all in that space. This was a lively and fun conversation, but Sasha's getting ready to head over there and deal with the news from there. And who knows, maybe the guy from Kiev will be giving us some news from there as well. But
Stay away
right now,
from
let's get on out of here.
Stay clean.
Yep. Take it easy.
Who's the right? Take care.
Take care.